Hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I am your host, John Harris, and creeping around here somewhere is my right-hand man, Gabriel. And today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have Winter Nights. They have a new EP called Sky Burial, released on August 18th. Right now, I'm being joined by Jeremy to share some more information about this stellar release, as well as what's going on. How to get a burial in the sky. That sounds cool. So, Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be on. Jeremy here from Winter Nights. Loving it.
Beautiful, baby. So, Sky Burial. The funny thing is, how did you guys come up with that name? Because, I mean, obviously, that's how I want to go.
We have an album out from 6 years ago, I want to say. 7 years ago. And it kind of sort of played around with the theme of vultures. The idea of carcasses, death, rigor mortis, all that good death metal stuff. And, you know, as every band thinks about, you know, Winter Nights, the season, and you think about wolves and crows and all of that good old winter stuff. For me, I didn't want to go so much cliche, so I liked the theme of vultures. You know, they're when you see a vulture, you think of death, you know, and we sing about a lot to do with dying or the departed or afterlife, whatever it is. So 6 years ago, we had that, and we decided on our album cover, we didn't have any vultures, but on our banners for live stage, we decided to have vultures. And we got T-shirts printed with the banner on it. People went crazy over it. 6 years later, we released the album last year, which themed a vulture being chained down with the earth around him crumbling. And he's still chained down, trying to fly away. So the album talked about just being free but not free, so to speak, and metaphors. Time around the vultures. So I've just thought about everything to do with vultures, and I actually looked up their history, and Sky Burial was the name of the album instantly. As soon as I figured out that's what they do in Tibet and other regions around there, it's the most fucking awesome thing I ever heard in my life. So I studied for like, I don't know, about the whole beginning of the pandemic, maybe 6 months or whatever it was, and then wrote the album, and then we did the music and recorded like a month later in October last year. And everything surrounding it made sense. We even got keyboardists on there to be more like eerie feeling and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. Did you guys do the keyboards, or did you commission that out?
Commissioned it out. So he's a guy named Marko from Finland, and Marko Snek, and he was on some of my favorite albums from the late 90s and early 2000s, which was the band Kalma, Poison Black, Man-Eating Tree, a lot of these Finnish type of atmospheric bands. And I couldn't think of a better person I wanted than one of my favorite keyboardists to be on the album. So I just reached out, and it's the pandemic, so everybody had nothing to do and a lot of money to gain. So he was ready to go, you know.
Beautiful. How did you reach out to him? Did you have his contact information?
You know, Scandinavian people are really hard to find any information on. I just went through Facebook and waited till he responded, to be honest. And of course, like I've over the years been sort of tracking my favorite artists around the world, so it wasn't so hard, but you know, it took like a month for him to respond, so that was that.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of really killer records there, Poison Black and whatnot. I guess it's from the credits in the album. I should look myself. I love their sound. I know Tu Madsen did a lot of their production, mixing, and mastering for a while.
Yep. We were gonna actually mix with him, but he wasn't available at the time. I guess he still had a lot of work last year, early this year. I don't actually remember what year I'm in, but we went with a different guy who's from Finland, Ati, and I can't pronounce the last name. Kokorin or some weird Finnish stuff. Anyway, he helped mix and master like a lot of same albums, Nightwish, Kalma, Behemoth, those type of things. So we went with him, and it was just as good as I assumed that Madsen would have done it. So we were happy with that. You know, and he's worked with the keyboardist before, so it's kind of...
Yeah, I see it here. Ahti Kortelainen.
Yeah, exactly.
Kortelainen. Cool. Sweetness. Okay. Now, I was looking it up. You mentioned album 6 or 7 years ago, and then all of a sudden just raging hard into work. We've got an EP in 2020. Now we have another EP in 2021. I guess kind of a basic question. Why the hiatus? And when you came back, was there anything in particular that you were looking to maybe do differently?
Yeah, the hiatus was because we were going through a really bad drummer situation. Not in the sense of having bad blood, but 2014, as soon as we released that album, the full length there, we had to part ways with our drummer. He had to do different things. And then 2 years later, we have a drummer. We recorded half that album, which we released in 2020, and he had to move to Hawaii, work-related reasons. Not a bad move, but still, it put us in a dump. Spent a year working with a new drummer, recorded the other half of the album. He decides to leave to Denver, Colorado for, I guess, family-related reasons. I don't know. And then, at that point, we're like, we need to figure out how to keep a fucking drummer at this damn point, because it's getting ridiculous. So we went through a couple of commissioned drummers, for shows and a couple little parties and stuff. It worked out, but we didn't connect with anybody. We finally found a drummer in 2019 who didn't have another band, didn't have a family yet, and wasn't looking to go away anytime soon because he loves his job in New York. So we're like, okay, great. We started work with him, and he just became a breath of new wind, because breath of fresh air. He's just pushing us. New song, new album. I think it was because he was playing songs from other drummers on previous records, and he didn't want to fucking do that anymore. So I think he was pushing. One of the reasons, but besides, of course, having your own music out is great. But we went straight forward with him. This is his album, Skyborough. This is his first album with us. The other one was just 6 years of other drummers and stuff going on. And in 2020, that was released. Skyborough is his first album, and he just went straight for it. Like, he did all the recording in one day, straight through drums. And we were already recording this month for the next album. So we're ready, to push in winter time, get another album out. Probably an EP at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing full in.
All right, drummer problems. Everybody in the comment section down below, have you ever had drummer problems?
And we had a lot of time to spare with the pandemic, obviously, so that helped us a lot. We never stopped doing anything. We always went to the studio every week, even though the whole city is shut down. New York City here, you have to bike to the studio from Staten Island or something like that, and everything is shut down. But we're like, fuck it, we're gonna go to the studio, we're gonna play music, we're gonna be safe about it, but we have a big enough studio to be safe about it, and we all get tested, because we all were working during the pandemic. And, we never stopped in our offices and buildings. What we do for work is hands-on work, plumbing and stuff. We never stopped, so it was just if we never stopped working, why should we stop practicing? So we just kept going and going, and now we have I could probably have a hard drive of 40 songs that I did over the pandemic that may be on an album or not. Yeah. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now, I guess one of my next questions, or actually what we'll do instead is I'll mention that in today's show notes, we have the band's website, winternights.bandcamp.com, as well as links to 2 videos that are available, I Pray to I and Time to Say Goodbye. And in the pre-roll, Jeremy, you mentioned that at time of recording, I Pray to I was released about a week ago, and it was crazy. So take us through the craziness.
Well, we hired these PR companies to release the video, and I didn't think. I hired a couple. I tried to cover my bases around the world, which was Scandinavia. There's one PR company. They don't really talk to us too much, but they send stuff out to magazines and stuff. Then there's one from Portugal, and then there's one from England, and there's one from the United States, and usually they don't really work together, but somehow this time they were able to actually work together. And then there's the video gets released released in like some little magazine in like Romania. And like, how is that even possible? Okay, same day, fine. I'm happy with it. And we had these reviews on the album video, so I was actually happy that I probably got like, I don't know, 100 emails about, would you like to do this in the magazine? Would you like to do this podcast? Would you like to do this interview? So I was like, in one day, I was like, just kind of like bombarded with stuff, which I never had before. I mean, I'm sure like, superstar bands have this all every day or whatever, but for me, it was just like crap. Like, I'm sending out to the guys in the band, like, I don't know what to do with this. You figure that out, like questionnaires and all these kind of stuff. And of course, the friends and family who are saying stuff to us is cool too, But it's better when you hear it from people you don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of Portugal, shout out to Katya over at Against PR, who was able to get us connected because PR is important. So what I love that you said, to take a moment really quick, is the moment that you decide to go from being a local band to being a professional band, and part of that is putting your pennies into getting some PR coverage. And all of a sudden, 100%. The world knows that you've released something rather than just releasing something and watching it do nothing.
Yeah, we've been there. We haven't been around that long, but I guess we're sort of whatever you call mature, because I'm not mature at all, but sort of mature enough to understand that if you release it locally, it stays locally. Your friends and family hear it, people at shows, great, but whatever you've worked on, it's a masterpiece. No matter who you are, it's your baby. No matter if people don't like it or they do. So I think of it as like, get out to as many people as possible, even if it's just €100 here, €100 there. Everybody, you got 4 or 5 band members. It's easy money. Just if they have it, great. And just get out to as many people as possible. I'm working with a guy from Russia now who's going to just be distributing our Sky Burial CDs. And I thought it was kind of weird to have it shipped from Russia here. Mm-hmm. But in a way, he's like, it's not only going to be shipped to the United States, I'm going to hit all the magazines and labels along the way in Europe. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Yeah, let's work together. And it was like the most minimal cost you could think of. Like, I love America, but it's insane prices with PR and CD replications, duplications, vinyls. We get our stuff shipped out from like, I don't know, Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic, whatever, and Romania and stuff like that, because it's half the price even with the shipping. So
yeah,
I go with PR every day. Like, no matter where you are, get your shit out to the world.
You have to, baby. You have to. Well, and the other cool thing about modern day, and especially in this pandemic, that I was surprised by the music industry, is the band could be from Finland, their manager is from California, their tour manager is from Canada, their record label is from Germany, the vinyls are coming from Romania. It's just like the whole world is connected via the internet now.
Yeah, it's a big world out there. When we play with bands, sometimes I recognize that their tour manager or their manager or whoever is there is from a different country. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Usually I don't understand nothing they say, but it's cool to have that diversity,
It is, baby. Now, I'm looking at that 8-string. You said you're trying to figure it out. Is the 8-string on the record?
No, it is not.
Oh.
I didn't want to... 7 strings on the whole record. Only 7 strings. But that's like... So that was... I got in a trade deal. It's not the best guitar, but I've changed the pickups and a bunch of stuff in it to make it a better guitar. I got it in a trade deal, and... We have a guitar tech here in the city, Bonk Services, and he works. He goes on tour with like Nightwish and those type of bands, so we trust him. I gave him the guitar, and he looks at me and says, like, "This is one of the worst guitars I've ever had seen and worked on, because it was just black stuff on the fretboard, and the strings were like horrible. All the electronics were just like dusted and burnt out." And I'm like, "Can you do anything with it, or did I get a bad trade deal here?" And he's like, I'll work on it. So, he spent a couple of weeks on it. It was amazing. And now it sounds really good, but I'm not accustomed to the big neck and how it's supposed to play, at least.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe on the next record you guys are doing just some chugs, just some like low drop Q chugs, I
have it in such a weird tuning that it's probably like on, I don't know. This goes flubbity at this point. I got to figure out the tuning too.
Yeah. Any guitar players in the comments section using an 8-string? What are your thoughts? What are you struggling with? What was the key point? Do you like using the 8-string? I think it's easier said than done because I see some bands doing it, but whenever I hear about working with them, it sounds like a nightmare to keep in tune, find the right string gauge, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, that's it's a work in progress. Just like 7-string took a while, 6-string took a while for me too. So back in the day,
beautiful. Well, neither faith nor fear will get you there, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's time to say goodbye to the 8-string, you might have to do that. Give it a sky burial.
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah. Just don't forget that after you do that, you pray to you, or I pray to I, or whatever, and
yeah.
Goes from there, baby. Sweet. So winternights.bandcamp.com, available in today's show notes, as well as links to I Pray to I and Time to Say Goodbye, the EP Sky Burial, out August 18th, available everywhere you consume music. Jeremy, is there anything I missed?
No. Besides Neither Fate Nor Fear, I just want to mention a comment about it. I made that song up maybe 15 years ago, and it was, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on, like good and bad, life stuff, family, jail, stupid shit like that. When you're in your young 20s, you do the craziest shit in the world. But the song was made up about not believing in a denomination like religion or whatever, or following a cult or whatever the people do these days or back then. And it's not about, and it's a song is about also not letting fear give in to you. So I made it a long time ago, 15 years. The reason why it's so short, I got a lot of questions about it. The song, actual music is only like 2 minutes long, maybe. That's how I made it back then, and that's how the song felt good. And I think that the idea of it, of the express, it gets its point out within those 2 minutes. If I could, I don't know. That's a question I've been getting a lot, so I wanted to get that out there. Or every old song. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Jeremy. Once again, winternights.bandcamp.com, available in today's show notes, as well as links to I Pray to I and Time to Say Goodbye. The EP Sky Burial, out August 18th. Available everywhere you consume music. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
Thank you, John. This is great. Cheers.
Yeah.